More coronavirus news, Robinhood breaks down, and the travel industry got hit hard during the week. This is the Silver Reports Weekly Review, where we take a look at the headlines that move the markets during the week and all things investment related. On Monday, the market staged a massive rally. The Dow closed up 1,293 points, the S&P closed up 136 points, and the Nasdaq closed up 384 points. The Dow's gain was a single-day points record and snapped a 7-day losing streak. Apple had a big hand in moving the markets. The stock was up 25 points on the day, its best day in 11 years. Also, Costco stock price saw a big move from panic buying that occurred over the weekend. Coronavirus news dominated the markets as the number of infections moved close to 90,000, with the death toll of over 3,000, 5 of which have occurred in the United States. The annual Gamers Developers Conference, which takes place in San Francisco, was postponed until the summer. The CDC joins a list of events like the Google News Initiative Global Summit, Shopify's annual United Developers Show, and the GSM Association Mobile World Congress Smartphone Trade Show that have been canceled due to coronavirus fears. Robinhood's app crashed on Monday from the heavy trading volume that caused the markets to rally. The shutdown left some investors unable to get involved in the rally and other customers unable to sell out of positions that were up big. It should be noted that issues from heavy volume aren't a small broker issue. TD Ameritrade, Fidelity, and Charles Schwab experienced delays and outages 2 Mondays ago due to the heavy volume that caused the markets to sink 1,000 points. In earnings news, Tilray was down 12% in after-hours trading after the company reported a $291 million net loss, which was wider than expected by the street. The company missed revenue estimates by $8.5 million and EPS estimates by 24 cents. The encouraging news from the company was revenue grew by 202%, cannabis kilograms equivalent sold was up 446%, and the average selling price was up 19% year over year. And JD.com stock rose 12% on a Q4 earnings beat. JD.com reported an EPS beat by 2 cents and a revenue beat by $700 million. On Tuesday, the markets whipsawed, starting the day down, but then jumping sharply on expected news out of the Fed, but then later falling hard. The Dow closed down 785 points, the S&P closed down 86 points, and the Nasdaq closed down 268 points. The news from the Fed was an interest rate cut, as a lot of investors had assumed. The 50 basis point cut was pretty unceremonious, which drew mixed reactions from market pundits. The emergency cut to stabilize the markets didn't really take on the first day, though. There was news out of Facebook that the company plans to scale back its plans for Libra and not make it available on its own services. The move was seen as a reaction to regulatory scrutiny the company has faced since announcing the Libra project. Lost in the craziness of interest rate cuts and the market still falling as much as they did was Target's earnings. Target reported an EPS beat by 3 cents but missed on revenue by $50 million. Comp sales rose 1.5% in Q4 but were below the 2.1% estimates. Target forecasted comp sales growth for Q1 in the low single digits and an EPS between $1.55 and $1.75. Urban Outfitters fell after reporting a gross margin decline. Gross margin fell 331 basis points to 28.5% in the quarter and missed the 30.4% estimate. Urban Outfitters reported an EPS miss by 13 cents but beat revenue estimates by $10 million. On Wednesday, investors had some time to think over the rate cut and got bullish. The Dow closed up 1,100 points, the S&P closed up 126 points, and the Nasdaq closed up 334 points. The Fed's Beige Book was released and provided investors with some insight into the Fed's rate cut decision. Some analysts are also attributing the stock market's rally to Joe Biden's Super Tuesday win. Interesting. United Airlines announced it would reduce U.S. flights by 10% in April, a move to deal with the decline in demand for air travel since the spread of the coronavirus. Canopy Growth announced it's cutting 500 jobs and shutting down 2 of its facilities and no longer plans to begin production on the 3rd facility. The stock closed up 2% on the day. I expect we'll see a lot more news like this in the coming months. Unfortunately, marijuana companies set up shop as if everyone breathing was going to use a marijuana-related product once it was legal, and they're finding out the hard way that's not the case. In earnings news, Zoom Communications dropped 5.5% in after-hours trading despite a good earnings release. The company reported an EPS beat by 8 cents and a revenue beat by $11.4 million. Revenue grew 78% year over year, and the company gave a revenue outlook for Q1 2020 in the $199 to $201 million range, which was much higher than the consensus. Dollar Tree reported an EPS beat by 4 cents but missed on revenue estimates by $70 million. Investors were expecting comparable sales to increase by 1.8% in Q4, but they only grew by 0.4%. Dollar Tree also provided Q1 revenue forecast that was below consensus, and Campbell Soup was up big after it reported an EPS beat by 6 cents and revenue of $2.1 billion. On top of the solid earnings report, Campbell raised its EPS outlook for 2020. On Thursday, the market giveth and the market taketh away. The Dow closed down 969 points, the S&P closed down 106 points, and the Nasdaq closed down 279 points, wiping out a large portion of the gains from Wednesday. The fear surrounding the coronavirus continued to influence investors' behavior. On Thursday, the number of COVID-19 cases jumped to 95,000, with at least 3,200 deaths. New York State's governor stated that cases of COVID-19 in the state doubled overnight. We also got news of companies like JP Morgan putting into place emergency risk management teams in order to stay active if things with the coronavirus get worse. Facebook, Microsoft, and Amazon have all allowed some of their employees to work from home to deal with the coronavirus scare. On Thursday, anything associated with travel was hit hard on the day. United Airlines was down 13%, American Airlines was also down 13%, and Delta was down 7%. Hertz was down 14%, and Avis was down close to 14%. We got earnings from Kroger and Costco on Thursday. Grocers have been doing very well over the recent weeks. Kroger reported an EPS beat by a penny, and revenue of $28.8 billion was in line with estimates. Identical store sales growth came in at 2% versus the 2.1% consensus, and the company reported an increase in digital sales of 22%. Costco reported an EPS beat by 4 cents and a revenue beat by $810 million. Comparable sales were up 7.9% versus the 5.7% estimate, and e-commerce sales rose 28% in the quarter.
On Friday, markets continued to drop. The Dow closed down 256 points, the S&P closed down 51 points, and the Nasdaq closed down 162 points. The coronavirus continued to move the markets to end the week. New figures stated that 100,000 people have been infected with the virus, and 3,400 deaths have been attributed to the virus. The first wave of the coronavirus in the U.S. has hit New York, Washington, and California so far. The February jobs report was also announced on Friday. The U.S. added 273,000 jobs during the month, but that wasn't enough to help the markets move up. Surprisingly though, the Dow, the S&P 500, and the Nasdaq all closed up on the week. The rallies of Monday and Wednesday were enough to keep the markets positive for the week. In crypto news, the Supreme Court of India overturned a banking ban it imposed on companies transacting in cryptocurrencies. It was seen as a big win for the crypto industry, but not everyone was happy with the decision. The Reserve Bank of India plans to file a petition against the judgment. On the charts, Bitcoin put a small rally in during the week. It was trading at $9,126, up 6% from last week. Ethereum was trading at $240.02, a 7% gain from last week's price. Litecoin was trading at $62.04, a 6.5% gain from last week. And Ripple was trading at 24 cents, up 4% from last week. Crude oil had a tough week, specifically a tough Friday. Black gold dropped 9.5% on Friday, closing the week out at $41.42 per barrel, down 7.7% from last week's closing price. A big winner for the week was Inovio Pharmaceutical. The stock is up 245% on hopes that it can develop a coronavirus vaccine. A big loser for the week was Eldorado Resort. The stock was down 32% during the week. That's it for this week's market review. If you want to dig deeper into the headlines we covered, the links to the stories are in the description below. If you're ready to get serious about investing and creating wealth for yourself and your family, check out the latest quarterly newsletter, The Seville Report. Serious investment ideas presented in a way that experienced and novice investors can understand. If you're ready to master the markets, check out our newsletter at sevillereport.com. A link to sign up to our weekend article in focus is in the description below. Thanks again for checking out the Silver Report's market review. This channel is dedicated to anyone who wants to start investing but doesn't know how or where to start. If you have any questions, ask in the comment section, like and subscribe, and may your next investment be your best investment. See you next week.